Master manipulators are individuals who skillfully influence and exploit others for personal gain. Often exhibiting traits of narcissism or Machiavellianism, they use a repertoire of deceptive psychological tactics to gain control. The power of these manipulation tactics lies in their subtlety. They can easily go unnoticed while inflicting devastating harm on the target. By understanding how a manipulator thinks and recognizing their tactics, you take the crucial first step toward protecting yourself. In this video, we will explore the mindset of a master manipulator and expose the common manipulation tactics they use, complete with real-life examples. An informative, professional tone guides this deep dive, equipping you with knowledge to identify manipulation early and respond effectively. Master manipulators typically harbor a cynical worldview and a ruthless drive for control. Research finds that those high in Machiavellianism, a personality trait often present in master manipulators, have an unflattering and pessimistic view of humanity and a willingness to use any means to achieve their goals. In other words, they see people as gullible or untrustworthy and believe the ends justify the means. Psychologists describe Machiavellian personalities as marked by three core components: amorality, strategic manipulation, and a cynical view of others. They disregard conventional morality and assume everyone else is dishonest, which to them justifies deceit and exploitation. Such individuals are often skilled social chameleons. They build false trust and intimacy as a tool. A manipulator might act charming, empathetic, and understanding solely to gather personal information or win your confidence. For example, a manipulative coworker may befriend you, sympathize with your problems, and later use the secrets you shared against you when it suits their agenda. Master manipulators deliberately cultivate close relationships, as family members, friends, or romantic partners, to study their target's vulnerabilities from the inside. By observing you up close, learning your weaknesses and fears, they gain insider knowledge that becomes ammunition for later abuse. It's important to note that many master manipulators exhibit traits of the dark triad of personality: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. They often lack empathy, feel entitled, and excel at deceit. For instance, a narcissistic manipulator will lie, guilt trip, or flatter others if it boosts their ego or achieves their aims. Critically, they rarely take responsibility for wrongdoing. Instead, they rationalize or deny their harmful behavior. Early experiences such as childhood neglect or trauma can contribute to this mindset by eroding the person's ability to trust and empathize. Over time, the manipulator comes to view relationships as power plays rather than mutual bonds. In summary, inside the mind of a master manipulator is a calculating belief that people are pawns to be used. They see relationships as games of control, not empathy. Armed with this mindset, they deploy a range of tactics to get their way. Next, we expose these tactics, from gaslighting to love bombing, and illustrate how they work so you can spot them in action. One of the hallmark tools of a master manipulator is gaslighting. Gaslighting is a tactic that makes you question your own reality and sanity. The manipulator deliberately lies, denies, and twists facts to make you doubt your memories and perceptions. Essentially, they convince you that what you know happened didn't really happen, or that their bad behavior isn't as bad as you think. Blaming the victim, twisting facts, and flat-out denying events are common methods gaslighters use to destabilize your sense of truth. Over time, a victim of gaslighting can become insecure, confused, and unable to trust their own mind. Example: imagine you confront your partner with proof of their infidelity. A gaslighting partner might respond, "You're crazy, that never happened," or claim you actually misunderstood innocent behavior. In a classic scenario described by psychologists, a cheater twists the truth and accuses their loyal partner of infidelity. Here, the manipulator flips reality on its head. You, the faithful partner, are now defending yourself against false accusations. This deliberate reversal is not just hypocrisy. It's a cunning power move designed to put you on the defensive and divert attention from their misdeeds. Gaslighting often starts small and escalates. A manipulator might first dismiss your feelings. You're too sensitive, it's nothing. Then graduate to denying clear facts. I never said that, you must be imagining things. They may even stage incidents to make you seem forgetful or irrational. Because gaslighting is typically gradual, victims often don't realize it's happening until they're deeply enmeshed in self-doubt. Many gaslighters will insist you're overreacting or making a big deal out of nothing, causing you to question your own judgment. Over time, you might start apologizing for things you didn't do or accepting the manipulator's version of events just to keep the peace. The end goal of gaslighting is control. If you no longer trust your own memory or feelings, you become dependent on the manipulator's narrative of reality. You may find yourself constantly second-guessing your decisions and even your identity. Recognizing gaslighting is vital. If you notice someone frequently contradicting plain facts, invalidating your experiences, or making you feel crazy, you may be dealing with a gaslighter. As hard as it is, hold on to the truth. Keeping notes, saving messages, or reality checking with a trusted friend can help you resist gaslighting and stay grounded in facts. Another favorite tactic of master manipulators is playing the victim. Here, the manipulator flips the script, portraying themselves as the one who's been wronged, even when they are actually the perpetrator of harm. In doing so, they effectively shift blame onto the real victim. A manipulator who plays the victim will often exaggerate, invert, or even completely fabricate stories to gain sympathy and absolve themselves of responsibility. They might adopt a wounded tone and insist that everyone is against them, or that you are treating them unfairly, thus guilting you and others into comforting or excusing them. Example: an abusive partner might initiate a vicious argument or even violence, and when confronted, tearfully claim you were the one who hurt them. They may say things like, "I can't believe you're doing this to me after everything. I'm always the one getting hurt." By positioning themselves as the martyr, they divert attention from their own actions. In a workplace scenario, imagine a coworker who chronically misses deadlines and blames you for not supporting them. Suddenly, they're the struggling victim of an unhelpful colleague, when in reality, they caused the problem. Manipulators play the victim for two major reasons: to avoid accountability and to manipulate others' emotions. If they successfully cast themselves as the injured party, they sidestep the need to apologize or change their behavior. Instead, you might find yourself apologizing to them. Meanwhile, onlookers may rally to support the victim, further validating the manipulator's ploy. Psychologists note that in abusive dynamics, the real victim can be forced into a position of being the cause for all that is wrong, while the abuser claims saintly suffering. The abuser's mantra becomes, "If you don't give me what I want, I'm entitled to treat you however I choose." Playing the victim often goes hand in hand with blame shifting, or the DARVO tactic: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. The manipulator denies their wrongdoing, attacks the accuser's credibility, and insists they are the true victim. For instance, an abusive partner provokes a fight, then accuses their mate of aggression. By reversing the roles of victim and offender, the manipulator not only escapes blame, but also gains the upper hand. The actual victim is now defensive, isolated, and possibly guilt-ridden. This tactic also gains sympathy from others for the manipulator's supposed mistreatment, giving them a blank check to treat the real victim however they choose. To guard against this, stay objective. Document what actually happened and remind yourself who did what. If you notice a pattern where someone never admits fault and always finds a way to make you feel guilty instead, that's a red flag. Healthy individuals can acknowledge mistakes, but master manipulators refuse accountability. Don't be afraid to step back and ask, "Am I really at fault here, or am I being made to feel at fault?" Seeking an outside perspective from a friend, counselor, or colleague can provide clarity when you're mired in a blame-shifting fog. Projection is a psychological manipulation tactic closely related to blame shifting, where the manipulator accuses others of the very faults or behaviors that they themselves are guilty of. In essence, they project their own bad traits, insecurities, or misdeeds onto you. This lets them offload guilt and puts you on the defensive. As one counseling report explains, a narcissistic manipulator who is lying might accuse you of dishonesty. Their own behavior is mirrored back as your fault. If they feel anger or jealousy, they may claim you're the one being hostile or envious. By doing so, they not only divert attention from their actions, but also create confusion and chaos about who is really responsible for the problem. Example: consider a manipulative team leader who frequently gossips and sows distrust among colleagues. Sensing some pushback, they start accusing you of talking behind people's backs and not being a team player, even though you have done no such thing. In a relationship context, if the manipulator is stealing money or engaging in inappropriate friendships, they might suddenly accuse you of financial irresponsibility or infidelity. It's a startling experience to be blamed for something you know the other person is doing, which is exactly why projection is so effective. It puts you on the spot trying to defend yourself, while the true culprit continues their behavior unchecked. Projection is often unconscious in everyday people, but in a master manipulator, it can be a calculated strategy. When they deliberately and repeatedly attribute their toxic traits to you, it serves multiple purposes. First, it furthers the gaslighting process. You begin to question, if they're so insistent I'm guilty of this, could it be true? Second, it lets the manipulator avoid confronting their issues. As long as everything is your fault, they feel no need to change. And third, it damages your reputation. If they loudly label you as the liar, the aggressor, or the untrustworthy one, other people may begin to doubt you, isolating you socially. Mental health experts note that projection often appears in conjunction with other tactics. For example, a paradoxical defense scenario can involve projection: a liar calling you dishonest or an arsonist accusing the burn victim. In such cases, the manipulator's accusations directly contradict reality. Recognize this tactic by its telltale pattern. The traits or actions you're being accused of are exactly what the manipulator has shown themselves to do. When you identify this, resist the urge to mirror their hostility back. Instead, calmly stick to facts. Actually, I did send that email on time. Here's the proof. Or, I notice you're accusing me of X, but I recall you doing X recently. Keep records when possible, and remember that these accusations are a reflection of them, not you. Staying grounded in your self-knowledge is key, as manipulators will try to shake your confidence by any means necessary. Not all manipulation tactics are overtly negative from the start. Love bombing is a manipulative strategy that initially feels wonderful, an onslaught of affection, adoration, and attention that a manipulator uses to quickly gain your trust. In the early stages of a relationship, often a romantic one, the manipulator bombs the target with over-the-top displays of love and attention. This can include constant flattering compliments, expensive gifts, intense togetherness, rapid promises of a future, and declarations of love that seem premature. The target is swept off their feet and may feel they've found the one who truly appreciates them. However, love bombing is not genuine care. It is a deliberate and manipulative tactic deployed to gain the upper hand over a new partner and increase their dependence. The master manipulator's goal is to create a fast-track emotional bond so that you lower your guard. Because you've been showered with warmth and positivity, you come to trust them deeply and quickly. The manipulator ensures you become emotionally invested in them, sometimes to the point of neglecting other relationships, since they monopolize your time and even try to isolate you under the guise of, "I just want you all to myself." Example: you meet someone and within days or weeks they're saying, "I've never felt this connection before. You're my soulmate," sending lavish bouquets and texting constantly. They might talk about big plans, marriage, moving in together, very early. You feel flattered and amazed at the intensity. Yet, a month or two later, this same person starts criticizing you, controlling your activities, or withdrawing affection suddenly. This is the classic idealization devaluation cycle. As Psychology Today notes, a love bomber first idealizes you, then once you're hooked, they pivot to devaluation, withdrawing affection, insulting you, and attempting to control you. For instance, after a phase of constant praise, they may abruptly snap, "Why do you dress like that? Change now? You're embarrassing me," making you feel on edge and desperate to get back in their good graces. If you consider leaving, they might briefly return to loving gestures, a renewal of the love bombing, to make up for the abuse and keep you invested. Love bombing is often associated with narcissistic and abusive personalities. It's commonly seen in toxic romantic relationships, but also occurs in high control groups like cults or gangs to lure members. The sudden, overwhelming affection is meant to create dependency. You become addicted to the high of their approval. Once that dependency is established, the manipulator knows they can start enforcing their real agenda, be it control, financial exploitation, or simply ego gratification, because you'll be willing to tolerate a lot to get back the high of the honeymoon phase. To protect yourself, remain cautious when someone's attention seems too much, too soon. Healthy love grows steadily and respects boundaries. It doesn't steamroll them. Be wary of anyone who rushes commitment or tries to isolate you from others early on. If you suspect love bombing, slow the pace and maintain outside support. A true partner will respect this, but a manipulator will often react with anger or increased pressure. Remember that real trust is built over time, not in a whirlwind. By keeping that perspective, you can enjoy romance without falling blindly into a trap. Triangulation is a sneaky tactic where the manipulator involves a third party or multiple others in your personal conflict, creating a triangle of tension. Instead of addressing issues directly one-on-one, the manipulator brings in another person to stir up rivalry, jealousy, or distrust. It's essentially a divide and conquer strategy. By pitting people against each other or controlling the flow of information between them, the manipulator maintains power and keeps others off balance. In toxic relationships or family dynamics, triangulation is sadly common. For example, in a family, a parent with manipulative tendencies might tell child A one story and child B another, ensuring the siblings mistrust each other and only trust the parent. Or they may constantly compare the children. "Why can't you be more responsible like your brother?" to foster competition. In a romantic setting, a manipulative partner may introduce the specter of a rival, flirting with someone else or complaining about an ex excessively, to make you feel insecure and fight harder for their attention. As one expert describes, in a romantic relationship, the manipulator will often bring another person into the intimate relationship to create friction, confusion, and jealousy. The triangulated individuals might not even realize they are being used as pawns. Example: suppose you have a colleague, Alice, who is friendly with you, but also with your teammate Bob. Alice, a master manipulator, tells you, "Bob has been saying you're not pulling your weight on the project," whether true or not, and then tells Bob, "I'm worried about you. You seem upset with Bob." Now you and Bob feel distrustful and on edge with each other, while Alice appears innocent and even helpful for sharing these concerns. In reality, Alice is creating conflict behind the scenes and then pretending to be the peacekeeper, which cements her control over the narrative. Both you and Bob may end up vying for Alice's approval or information to clarify things, giving her even more influence. The hallmark of triangulation is indirect communication. The manipulator ensures that person A and person B communicate through them, rather than directly. This way, the manipulator can filter and twist messages to serve their interests. They might gossip, spread rumors, or selectively share information to spark tensions. They may even orchestrate situations where two people feel they have to choose sides. Narcissistic manipulators are especially drawn to triangulation because it feeds their sense of power. Watching others compete or conflict due to their machinations makes them feel in control. It also bolsters their ego. They become the center of attention or the one everyone is trying to please. If you suspect triangulation, the antidote is direct, open communication with the other party involved, without the manipulator in the middle. Compare notes with the friend, family member, or coworker to see if what the manipulator said holds up. Often, you'll find inconsistencies or outright lies when you remove the intermediary. Setting firm boundaries is also key. Refuse to be dragged into loyalty tests or secret gossip. Insist on transparency. For instance, if someone says, "So-and-so said this about you," consider bringing everyone into the same room or group chat to hash it out openly. A true manipulator will likely panic or backtrack when their triangle is exposed to the light of open communication. By refusing to play the divide and conquer game, you remove the manipulator's power over the situation. Hoovering, named after the vacuum cleaner brand, describes a manipulator's attempt to suck a victim back into a toxic relationship once the victim has pulled away or set boundaries. Master manipulators hate losing control over their targets. When they sense you're distancing yourself, perhaps you've broken up with an abusive partner, or you've started enforcing strict boundaries, they may launch a hoovering campaign to reel you back in. This often involves sudden apologies, promises, or dramatic gestures designed to make you return to the fold. Hoovering can take many forms. Emotional pleas. The manipulator might send heartfelt messages like, "I can't live without you. I'm a changed person. Please give me another chance." They could cry, beg, or express what sounds like genuine remorse. Sweet reminders. They might reminisce about the good times or send you old photos, trying to trigger your nostalgia and make you forget the bad. Promises to change. Grand promises appear. "I'll go to therapy. I'll quit drinking. I'll do anything you ask." These are rarely followed through long term, but in the moment, they seem convincing. Guilt trips or crises. Some manipulators will even play on your sympathy by creating crises. For example, an ex might suddenly claim they are severely ill or in trouble and need your help, hoping your compassion overrides your resolve to stay away. Or they guilt trip. "I'm falling apart without you. If you don't talk to me, I don't know what I'll do." Example: after enduring months of manipulation, you break off contact with a toxic friend. A week later, you receive a flurry of messages. "I'm so sorry for everything. You're the only one who understands me. Remember our road trip last year? I found a photo of us laughing. I miss that. I promise I'll be better. Please, can we talk?" This friend might even enlist others to tell you how miserable they are without you. Such emotional appeals can be hard to resist, especially if you still care about the person. Manipulators know this, which is why they will make all the apologies and promises to change to get the victim back, even if they don't truly intend to change. The hoovering tactic preys on hope and empathy. After a period of abuse or tension, the victim often desperately hopes the manipulator can change. When the manipulator temporarily behaves in an ideal way, kind, attentive, accountable, it's like a glimpse of the person you wished they were. Unfortunately, once they've pulled you back in, the old abusive patterns usually resume, sometimes worse than before. Victims of narcissistic abuse often describe a cycle: love bombing, abuse, breakup, hoovering, reconciliation, repeat. To handle hoovering, it's crucial to remember why you set boundaries or left in the first place. Keep a list of the reasons or even painful examples of their past behavior to review when you're feeling pulled by their apologies. Recognize the hoover for what it is: a strategy to regain control, not a genuine epiphany or personality transplant. In many cases, the healthiest response is not to engage at all. If no contact isn't possible, say, You co-parent with this person or work with them. Respond only to necessary matters and ignore the personal ploys. Setting firm boundaries. I'm sorry you're struggling, but my decision stands. And sticking to them will show the manipulator that their vacuum is unplugged. Over time, most manipulators will move on to find a new target when they see their tactics aren't yielding results with you. When direct control over a victim starts slipping, master manipulators often resort to smear campaigns to maintain power. A smear campaign is a coordinated effort by the manipulator to spread false information, rumors, or twisted half-truths about the victim, aiming to destroy the victim's reputation. The ultimate goal is to isolate the victim from potential support by turning friends, family, or colleagues against them. If the manipulator can convince others that you are crazy, bad, or abusive, they effectively cut off your lifelines, leaving you more dependent on or vulnerable to the manipulator's influence. Example: after a contentious breakup, your ex-partner, the manipulator, starts telling mutual friends and even posting on social media that you were the abuser in the relationship, or that you cheated, or that you're unstable, and everyone should be worried about you. They might even fabricate elaborate stories of how they suffered so much with you. People you once trusted begin to withdraw or confront you angrily based on these lies. This is a classic smear campaign. Your ex is portraying you in a negative light to keep you from getting the support and understanding you need. In a workplace context, a manipulative employee might quietly slander a coworker to the boss and team, claiming the coworker is incompetent or untrustworthy, hoping to turn everyone against that person and remove competition. Smear campaigns are often an extension of the playing victim tactic on a public scale. In fact, manipulators conducting a smear will frequently lie or exaggerate to appear like an innocent victim themselves while painting the true victim as the villain. For instance, an abusive person might tell others, "I had to leave for my own safety. They were manipulating me," co-opting the language of abuse survivors to discredit the real survivor. This can be extremely distressing if you are the target of the smear, as it feels like being attacked from all sides. You're dealing with the trauma of what the manipulator did to you, and simultaneously fending off a flood of new accusations and social shunning. The isolation resulting from a smear campaign is dangerous. Without friends or family who believe you, the manipulator hopes you'll either come crawling back so they can regain control, or at least be too disempowered to fight back against them. It's a way to punish you for resisting, and a warning to others of what happens if they cross the manipulator. As cruel as this tactic is, remember that truth tends to surface over time. To combat a smear campaign, document everything you can about the manipulator's prior actions, in case you need to prove your side, but also avoid retaliating with your own smear. That can feed the drama. Instead, calmly set the record straight with key people individually, providing factual corrections if necessary. You may discover that those who really know you won't be easily swayed by outrageous lies. Most importantly, do not let shame or embarrassment force you into isolation. Seek out a support network, even if that means talking to a therapist or joining a support group of others who've been through similar experiences. There are communities for survivors of narcissistic abuse, for example. Rebuilding your reputation takes patience, but maintaining your dignity and mental health comes first. A smear campaign is ultimately a reflection of the manipulator's desperation and vindictiveness, not a reflection of your worth. By standing firm in your truth and finding allies who see through the smear, you can outlast this tactic. A subtler yet pervasive tactic master manipulators use is the violation of personal boundaries. Manipulators despise boundaries because boundaries are limits on their power. Their ultimate goal is total control, and any assertion of independence or no from you interferes with that. Thus, they become very skilled at testing, pushing, and eventually trampling over boundaries, usually starting small and then escalating as they gain confidence. Early on, a manipulator will often probe what they can get away with. They might make a slightly inappropriate joke at your expense, invade a minor privacy, like reading a personal text over your shoulder, or ask for a small favor that's a bit inconvenient. If you don't object strongly, they interpret that as permission to push further. Psychologists describe this as a slow burn process. The manipulator starts with small boundary violations and works their way up once they see you're not stopping them. Each time you tolerate a violation, they increase the intensity, often so gradually that you don't realize your boundaries are being eroded until they're virtually gone. Example: at first, your friend borrows $20 and forgets to pay it back. You brush it off. Next, they start showing up at your apartment unannounced and staying late, even if you hint you have other plans. Fast forward, and this friend feels free to use your belongings, dictate your schedule, or involve you in schemes without permission. In a romantic context, a partner might begin by texting you constantly and getting upset if you don't respond immediately. Later, they demand access to your phone and email to prove you aren't hiding anything. Eventually, they control who you can hang out with and where you can go. What's happening is a steady transgression of boundaries. What would have shocked you on day one, say, tracking your phone location, becomes thinkable after weeks or months of boundary testing conditioning. A master manipulator's credo is often, "No boundaries should apply to me." If you try to assert a limit, for instance, "I need personal space," or "Please don't speak to me in that tone," a manipulator will frequently react as if you are the unreasonable one. They may accuse you of not loving or trusting them, or label you as difficult, disloyal, or disrespectful for attempting to draw a line. This is by design. It trains you to feel guilty for having boundaries at all. In healthy relationships, both sides respect each other's limits. In a manipulative relationship, the expectation becomes that the victim have no boundaries. Over time, the manipulator's boundary violations can become extreme and overt, things that, in isolation, would appall you. But because of the gradual buildup and normalization, victims often never see the violations coming until they're deeply enmeshed. A classic example is financial or legal abuse. You might find your partner has opened credit cards in your name, or a controlling family member has made decisions on your behalf without consent. By then, the manipulator has conditioned you to feel you can't object. The key to defending against this tactic is twofold: awareness and assertiveness. First, stay aware of your own comfort levels and values. If something feels off or intrusive, don't ignore that feeling. It's much easier to hold a boundary early than to reclaim it after it's been eroded. Second, practice assertively saying no and setting limits, even to small things. Healthy individuals will respect a polite boundary. Manipulators will resist. Note their reaction. If someone consistently guilt trips or steamrolls you when you set a boundary, take that as a serious warning sign of their character. You have every right to your personal space, time, and autonomy. A master manipulator will try to convince you otherwise, but asserting your boundaries firmly and having the courage to enforce consequences if they're violated is one of the strongest protections you have against this slow creep form of control. Having exposed the tactics of master manipulators, the pressing question is, what can you do to protect yourself? It can be daunting to realize someone in your life may be using these strategies on you. The good news is that awareness truly is power. Once you can identify manipulation tactics, you can disrupt them and assert control over your own responses. Here are several proven strategies to help you resist and break free from manipulative ploys. 1. Recognize the pattern. Early. The first step is always to name what's happening. If you notice classic signs, like someone flipping blame onto you unfairly or making you doubt your sanity, pause and mentally label it. This is gaslighting, or this is blame shifting. By recognizing the manipulation pattern, you reclaim some objectivity. For example, If a boss falsely accuses you of mistakes you didn't make, acknowledge to yourself that this is their tactic, perhaps a projection or paradoxical defense, and not a reflection of your real performance. Recognizing the game helps you disengage emotionally from the trap. 2. Set firm boundaries. Decide what behaviors you will not tolerate and communicate those boundaries clearly. Manipulators will test limits, so it's on you to enforce your boundaries consistently. If you say, "I won't continue this conversation if you raise your voice," be ready to end the conversation the moment they do. It may help to practice assertive phrases. "I understand you're upset, but I won't be yelled at. Let's talk when we're calm." Over time, setting boundaries teaches the manipulator that you are not an easy target. Remember, no is a complete sentence and a powerful tool against those who want to control you. 3. Limit or cut off contact. In many cases, the most effective defense is distancing yourself from the manipulator. If it's a toxic friend or partner, this might mean scaling back the time you spend with them or ending the relationship. In a work setting, it could mean minimizing one-on-one interactions or looping in third parties like HR for transparency. Putting physical or emotional distance reduces their opportunities to play mind games. As one guide notes, if their presence is overwhelming or harmful, it's okay to step away for the sake of your mental health. In extreme cases, no contact, totally severing communication, might be the healthiest choice, especially with abusive ex-partners. You owe no one unlimited access to you, least of all someone who consistently harms you. 4. Document and gather evidence. This is especially relevant for gaslighting or smear situations. Keep records of important interactions, save emails, take screenshots of conversations, write down incidents with dates. Concrete evidence serves two purposes. It helps you stay clear on reality. When someone tries to rewrite history, you can look back at what actually happened, and it protects you if you need to prove the truth to others. For instance, if a manipulative colleague is blaming you for their failures, having a paper trail of your work and communications can debunk their lies. Even in personal relationships, a private journal of events can reinforce your memory against gaslighting. Just be sure to store sensitive evidence safely to avoid retaliation if the person discovers it. 5. Trust your perception and self-worth. Manipulators gain ground by making you doubt yourself. Counter that by reinforcing confidence in your own judgment. Remind yourself of things you know to be true. Some people find it helpful to list positive truths, e.g., "I am a caring friend," "I did my best at work," "I heard those words with my own ears." Strengthening your self-image is a buffer against lies. Also, recognize that you are not responsible for another adult's toxic behavior. No matter what they claim, you did not make them treat you poorly. That choice is 100% on them. By keeping a firm grip on your identity and values, you deprive the manipulator of the ability to define you or make you feel inherently flawed. 6. Communicate assertively and calmly. When you need to stand up to a manipulator, strive for a calm, firm, and factual communication style. Emotional outbursts can sometimes play into their hands, as manipulators will use your anger or tears against you. See? You're the unstable one. Instead, assert your perspective without apology. Use I statements and stick to the point. "I disagree with how you're recalling that event. My recollection is different." If they hurl general accusations, consider asking specific questions. "Can you give an example of when I supposedly did that?" This can expose the baselessness of their claims. By keeping your cool, you also deny them the chaos or emotional reaction they might be seeking. 7. Seek support and outside perspective. Don't battle a master manipulator alone. Isolation is the manipulator's friend. Connection is yours. Reach out to friends, family members, mentors, or support groups who understand or have experienced similar situations. Sometimes just validating with a third party that, "No, you're not crazy, what's happening to you is real and wrong," can fortify you immensely. If the situation is seriously affecting your mental health, consider talking to a therapist, preferably one familiar with abuse or manipulation dynamics. Professionals can provide coping strategies and an objective viewpoint. Building a network of people who have your back makes it much harder for a manipulator to trap you in their web of lies, and it gives you the strength to enforce boundaries and decisions. 8. Plan and act safely. Finally, if you decide to remove a manipulator from your life or call them out, have a safety plan. In most cases, manipulation does not escalate to physical danger. But if you're dealing with someone with psychopathic traits or volatile anger, for example, an abusive partner, prioritize your safety. This might mean consulting authorities, securing finances, or having a friend present during breakups or confrontations. Even in less dangerous scenarios, like distancing from a toxic friend, prepare for fallout like smear campaigns or guilt trips. Having a plan for various outcomes, e.g., if they start spreading rumors, I will inform close friends of my side calmly, gives you a sense of control and confidence in proceeding. By employing these strategies, you reclaim power over your own life and mind. Remember that master manipulators rely on secrecy, confusion, and your silence to continue their behavior. By shining a light on their tactics, setting boundaries, and rallying support, you take away the advantages they once had. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes the wisest strategy is to disengage entirely, but with knowledge and support, that choice remains yours, not theirs. Master manipulators thrive in the shadows of doubt, fear, and ambiguity. In this presentation, we've pulled back the curtain on their playbook, from gaslighting and playing the victim to love bombing, triangulation, hoovering, smear campaigns, and boundary violations. These tactics, while insidious, follow recognizable patterns. And as psychology experts note, recognizing manipulation tactics is the first step to intervening. In essence, knowledge truly is a form of power and self-defense. Inside the mind of a manipulator lies a drive for dominance without regard for others' well-being. They use charm, deceit, and coercion as tools to get what they want. But armed with awareness, you can spot those tools for what they are: tricks and traps, not truths. Instead of internalizing a manipulator's narrative, you can stand firm in reality. Instead of feeling isolated and helpless, you can reach out and reinforce your support network. And instead of slowly giving up your boundaries, you can reinforce them and exit relationships that don't respect them. It's important to remember that if you have been manipulated, it's not your fault. Even very intelligent, strong people can fall prey to a skilled manipulator. These master manipulators are often highly practiced in their craft. Be kind to yourself as you process what happened and take steps to heal. Recovery might involve rebuilding self-trust and confidence that were eroded, but those things will return with time and support. In closing, the tactics of a master manipulator only succeed as long as they remain hidden or unchallenged. Now that these tactics are exposed, you have the opportunity to respond differently. Whether it's a colleague, friend, family member, or partner using these manipulations, you can decide what role, if any, they get to play in your life going forward. By staying informed, setting clear boundaries, and seeking guidance when needed, you reclaim control over your own story. Ultimately, the best defense against manipulation is a strong sense of self and the courage to put truth and well-being above one person's agenda. Stay informed, stay confident, and remember, you are not alone and you are not powerless. Knowledge and self-respect are your allies as you move forward, free from the strings of any master manipulator.